In this video, we'll cover the checkout form and we'll save the order to the back end. So we have our shopping cart full with products, so let's check out. We're going to send the order to the back end and store it in the database. We'll have our Angular front end send data over using the REST API to our Spring Boot back end and put it in the database. Alrighty, so let's take a look at our application architecture, and here I'll kind of focus on the back end Spring Boot. We'll have our checkout controller that'll make use of a checkout service that'll also make use of the Spring Data JPA repository, and we'll eventually store the information in the database. And what we'll do is we'll make use of custom coding here for our checkout controller and also the checkout service. Alrighty, so a bit more on the custom coding. For the architecture, we'll have a custom controller and service. So we'll have a checkout controller and also a checkout service. Now, you may be wondering, why not use Spring Data REST? Because it's really awesome and amazing, and we've used it so far. Spring Data REST is great for basic CRUD. As I mentioned, we're currently using it for our product catalog, but it's not the best for processing the order using custom business logic. So if we needed to generate a custom tracking number and save the order in the database and also do some other custom business logic, Spring Data REST has a challenge there. So Spring Data REST is very limited in terms of customization. For custom business logic and processing, you'll want to create a custom controller and service. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm using custom coding here for the controller and the service. Alrighty, so let's take a look at our database diagram. So we'll have our orders, basically for the given order that we're saving in the database. A customer can have 0 to many orders. A order has a billing address and a shipping address. That's why we have the 2 lines there. And also an order item, that's the actual line item for the order. And we'll see more of this as we move into the actual coding for it. And then as far as the class diagram, we'll create these JPA entities here. So we'll have a customer that has 0 to many orders. An order has shipping address, billing address, and also an order has a collection of order items. We'll also make use of a data transfer object, basically for transferring data between the Angular front end and the Spring Boot back end. So we'll send data over the REST API, and we'll make use of this data transfer object called purchases. And this is something that we'll create. So this purchase will have a reference to the customer, shipping address, billing address, order, and a collection of order items. And here's a description here of the API. So we'll have a post to this endpoint /API checkout purchase. And the action is that it'll create a new purchase order and store it in the database. And then here's a look at the sample JSON here for the purchase. So we see we have a section here for the customer, shipping address, billing address, the order, and a collection of order items. Now let's take a look at our development process, and this is for the back end for Spring Boot. So the first thing we'll do is we'll run a database script to set up our database. We'll create some entities. We'll also create the data transfer objects. Next, we'll create the repository. Then we'll create the service. And then finally, we'll create the controller. Now, I won't go through the coding here in the slideshow. I'll simply swing into our coding video, and then we'll just cover all the code there in the coding video because you've seen a lot of this stuff before. We're just kind of pulling it all together for this given example. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and move to the next video and let's write some code.